Welcome everybody to TruExact Show. I'm with Eric, Brian, Dan. Mikey's joining this show today, and we have a special guest. We're keeping it in New Jersey. We're coming back to New Jersey after all these guests, which we love doing. We got a musician, drummer, you might know him from Gaslight Anthem, Benny Horowitz. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on this row of dudes.
Yes. No, I don't want to say, but we're a sausage party of a podcast.
There is. White Claws. 6 guys from Jersey. I feel like I'm outside of Bar A in the late
90s. We're everything bad about New Jersey, right? So,
I always quickly wound up at the Sawmill, you know?
Hey, best deal ever. Place. Best deal ever, right? $2.50, 2 slices and a soda, $2.50.
Give it to me every time.
And a beer, yeah. All right, so Benny, what we like to do, first of all, I'd like to just say I'm the king of the candy wheel, by the way, the 5 spaces for $1, but let's move on. That's for another day. So what we like to do here before we get into some questions is tell us about a background of you getting into music, man. We just love to hear the history of you guys.
Like just music.
Yes, you in general. You woke up and you were just into it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a family thing. You know, my parents are both from the city. You know, both just into cool shit. My father was pretty big Motown jazz kind of listener. He actually plays jazz flute, just like Ron Burgundy. Jazz flute for us.
Benny's drinking scotch right now.
It's true though. It actually happened. Yeah, I grew up with all that stuff, and then my mom happened to be like really, really hardcore into rock and roll, and by the time I was early teens, you know, 10, 11, she got super, super into collecting records and particularly classic rock and Queen. And she was a Queenie, which was people who were in the Queen fan club. This is pre-internet, so, you know, you signed up, you got a monthly newsletter with information. She wound up pen paling with like half a dozen other Queen fans from around the world. And I was, you know, spent a lot of time in those days getting carted around to record shows and stuff on the weekends. You know, like the kind of things they'll set up at, like, you know, the Springfield Marriott. I remember it was a big one that they used to have. She would give me like a couple dollars. I was into like cock rock and stuff then, you know, Guns N' Roses and, you know, Skid Row and shit like that, early Metallica. So I was buying like weird picture discs and stuff of like Guns N' Roses while I was there. So that kind of started just my love for like the narrative of like rock and stuff like that. But as far as playing, it started earlier than that. Just like anyone, there were 2 girls in the elementary school in like 4th grade who everybody liked. I think about it now, these girls had top 10 lists for the boys in school. It's kind of fucked up, right?
Yeah, don't worry, I was never on them.
I was like low. I don't think I ever.
At least you made the top 10, man.
Yeah. I barely made it. I barely made it by a thread.
I didn't understand. I was good at kickball. Why didn't anyone let me?
Steady 10 everywhere.
Well, the thing you could safely go on with your evening knowing that if people were number 1 or number 2 on those lists, they're probably statistically not doing well now.
I thought you were going to say dead.
Peaked in high school type of people.
They peaked a long time ago. They're like, you know, drunk, you know, used car salesman.
It'd be great if Benny was like, they're drunk doing podcasts in their basement now.
Yeah, I almost said something where I almost said drunk insurance salesman, and I'm like, out of this group, there's a chance.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, so that's how I got into drums. These 2 girls from school joined school band, so everyone joined school band, and I just sort of arbitrarily decided to play drums. And then I realized, like, I took to it quickly, and I was pretty good at it. And by maybe, you know, 6th, 7th grade, I had a kit. I learned how to play. And it's a funny story how I learned how to play. So my mom was a legal secretary. Family was split at this time, and I was just living with her. And she got a night job as a manicurist to make some extra dough. And she had a friend from a colleague that she used to paint nails with. And we went by her house one day on like a Saturday. I think it was in Boundbrook or Somerville. And we walk in and there's just this huge drum set like set up in the house. And up until that point, I had only been playing pad and stuff like that in school. And it turned out her boyfriend was like a local drummer named Tommy O'Donnell, who was just like a rock and roll dude. And I kind of became obsessed with it. And we sort of went weekly where my mom would like drink tea and smoke cigarettes with her friend. And I would go into the other room with Tommy and just fuck around on the drums. And he kind of taught, he wasn't a classically trained player or anything. So he would just play albums, play along to it, and I would watch, and then he'd be like, you try, you know, and then I would sit down and try to play it. And it's funny, it's actually still how I practice to this day. Like the main way I practice is when I fall in love with like a new album, I learn it. You know, I just put the headphones on and learn that record. So, you know, and that led into bugging my mom to get me a kit. And shortly thereafter, I met a couple kids in middle school who asked me to like try out for their band. I played a Nirvana song. I think maybe, I don't know, I forget exactly what we
Come
played
As You Are?
to get
Probably Come As You Are.
No, it has to be In Bloom. In Bloom has like the
do. It's like the easiest way to get into a Nirvana song. Do. It's just 3 little hits.
It would have been great if you just broke into Orgy Blue Monday, like.
But yeah, so I don't know. So I joined this band, Dilemma. That was my first band. Some of the guys were older than me. It was kind of like a hardcore band, like a melodic hardcore band. And that wound up being really like my trajectory into like the scene in general. And shortly thereafter, I started booking shows for this band. And then I just started booking shows. And by the time I was like 15, 16, I was like just really, really heavy into promoting. And I had found an Elks Lodge in Manville, the Manville Elks Lodge, that luckily for me, I had been going around like Central Jersey. I was living in an apartment in Bradley Gardens in Bridgewater with my mom at that point. And I'd been going around Central Jersey to like every like VFW, Knights of Columbus, Elks Lodge, like any of those places, getting flatly rejected by all of them when I was telling them what I wanted to do in there. And luckily, I remembered a show years before being at that Manville Elks Lodge. I think the band Shades Apart was playing there. And I hit those guys up, and it turned out that the 2 main Elks who dealt with renting the place out, one of which was my gymnastics instructor when I was a little kid. There was these brothers, Dan and Kevin Shields. And then on top of that, it turned out these dudes were in like a really awesome punk band in the 80s called Detention, who used to play like City Gardens in Trenton. They opened for like the Ramones and Suicidal Tendencies. So I like just happened, you know, to just stumble upon the one Elks Lodge in New Jersey that had a couple old punk rockers in it. Because usually they're filled with men who are not friendly to like kids like me, you know. I had a really, you know, I was renting Knights of Columbus in Dunellen. I don't know if you guys know.
We're right next Middlesex, right next door.
Okay. You know, you guys are in Middlesex. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you know every town I'm talking about. Good.
Come on, Benny. We've been emailing for months.
Yeah. I forgot already.
Can I ask you something real quick before you go on with your story?
Yeah.
When you first started playing drums, did you find that you kind of had like a natural ability at it, or was it really hard and you just worked really hard at it because you loved it? Because I know some people, like you speak to some people and they just they're born with this ability to do something that they kind of just pick up real quick and then they perfect it, you know. Because I remember when I was younger, like I literally tried to play like 5 or 6 different instruments and it was just like I can't do this shit, like it's just not clicking. Like for you, was there just something that was there right away?
There was, actually, with drums. And I think one of the reasons I found it so relieving was that feeling like I wasn't good at anything yet. You know, it was like the first thing, because I didn't excel at sports, even though I loved them. My brother was really into sports. My father was into sports. So I grew up playing sports, but I never excelled at any of them. But I think what's interesting about what you're talking about is, like, to get good at anything takes a ton of work, right?
Yeah.
But it's when you find something that doesn't really feel like labor is kind of when that clicks. And I think that's what happened with drums, is like, I just found something that it came a little easy to me at first, you know, in like school band and stuff. For some reason, I just maybe had like a natural timing or something like that wasn't off. I wasn't like Steve Martin and like The Jerk, you know. Like, you know, I had like a little bit of a thing there, maybe just from having a lot of music on in the house. But it was that thing where I found myself working really hard at it and it not feeling like work. And I think that was kind of the trick to it.
Benny, I have to piggyback on what Brian was saying a bit. Just to retract, you said your mom was in a Motown, and your dad was in a Motown. Your mom was in a hard rock, which is very like different. One of my favorite bands of all time is the Four Tops, and I will die on the hill. I will die on the hill. You heard me. That the Four Tops are better than the Temptations. I am standing by that.
Right.
But anyway, let's move on.
I disagree. I do disagree.
That's fine. That's fine.
But it's like, I won't die on the hill of going against the Four Tops.
I will die on this hill. And I will also say the Supremes are better than both of them. But anyway. All right.
It's a long conversation there.
Yeah. So why did you, like Brian said, like you knew drums were your thing and you went into rock. Why rock did you veer towards more than the Motown thing?
It's interesting. I guess it's because it's what presented itself to me. You know, like when that first band asked me to play, that's like what we were playing, you know? Like, what are the chances that a kid who's going to like middle school in Bridgewater, New Jersey is going to find like four people who just smoke at Motown? Like, odds aren't so good there. So yeah, I think it's...
Hey, buddy, we need a fifth member for the Temptations.
We got our tamburinas, we got 3 girls for backup. We got our dance moves down. Yeah, like,
that guy who has a really good voice.
Yeah. I think it's a little easier to try to cover like Pennywise songs. Yeah.
We're getting ties for bow ties today, guys.
That's it, yeah. We didn't have enough money for suits, bro. You know.
I have to say too, there's nothing. Is there a more rock name than Tommy O'Donnell? It just is such a rock and roll name.
It's pretty rock and roll. And honestly, like that guy, it's a name that's like so embedded into my narrative, but it literally went out of my life like over 25 years ago, which is strange, you know? Like, I do really wonder what happened to this dude. Like, you know, we had these lessons. It kind of got to a point. He even told my mom that, like, there's not much more I can show him. You know? He's gotten to a point where I guess he thought I could just, like, do it by myself. And then I went to see a drum clinic at, like, Sam Ash in Edison when I was like maybe 15, 16, and I randomly ran into him. It was like pretty short interaction. Him and that woman broke up. I heard he drank, like, and I really have no clue what happened to him.
So what you're saying is he was probably number 1 or 2 on those girls' list in 4th grade.
He might have peaked early. But it's those strange things. I mean, people ask sometimes, even like, oh, Drew, did you have a natural thing for drums? And there's always like a lot of people along the way in a narrative that kind of get lost in that. He's one of those people for me. Like, his role in my life was absolutely vital and crucial. And I hope he knows that. Kind of.
Right.
You know?
No, that's really cool. I want to pass it to Dan or Mikey if you have anything.
We're still continuing the story. I thought we were still in this part.
Yeah,
I'm still in Dunnell.
Yeah, we haven't made it to the top. He stopped
we're on this roller coaster right now.
Benny, go on, man. Dunnell.
Well, I was talking about booking those Elks spots.
Right. I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
No.
No, I got more.
Yeah, we're in Middlesex and Dunnell. Yeah, go on.
So we're in Dunnell. And this was right before, it was actually when I had been doing shows at the Manville Elks for a while and something happened there and I had to find an alternate hall for a minute. And I tried the Knights of Columbus and Dunnellon. They booked me the hall over the phone. I booked good bands. And there's even a flyer that I've seen circulating in like old hardcore, like nostalgia websites for a show that I put together that never happened because of this incident. Like, and I booked Converge from Boston. I booked Damnation. I booked a local band called For the Love Of, fucking Smoke, if you never heard that band. And I walked into this place, and at the time, I'm like 15 or 16. I got floppy skater hair, pretty chubby.
I'm sorry, what year is this?
This is probably like 96 or 97.
Okay.
Something like that. And I have like 8 earrings in one ear, you know, a couple in the other. God knows what I was wearing. Giant skater kid clothes.
Janko jeans?
Yeah, chain wallet. Like, you know.
The chain on the wall.
Hey, Janko jeans.
Jankos came a little later in the late 90s when kids started raving. I was more buying skate
Benny,
stuff.
I picture you with the earrings like a badass and then checking your Tamagotchi.
Yeah, no, certainly not a badass.
Gotta feed it.
Definitely not a badass. But I walked into this place, and a couple of the guys like really just started laying into me, kind of talking shit. One of them called me like the F word, the new F word.
Yeah.
And it was like this really strange interaction, and they fucking played me out super hard and took the show from me. They're like, yeah, you don't have the date anymore.
Wow.
And I'm just like, yo, for real? And they're like, yeah. And they were like, and you can get the fuck out of here too. Like, they're really aggressive about it. And I was
Jersey.
I know.
That's like
I had to make a decision because guess like who drove? I didn't drive yet, so my mom is sitting outside, double parked in her car, and I had to make that split decision because like if I told my mom what happened in there, would have been a melee. Like those dudes would have had it coming, and I don't even know what kind of interaction. So since I knew that was like an inevitability, I just kept it to myself.
What'd you tell her when you came back? What'd you tell her?
I didn't tell her shit. I was just like, yeah, it's still good. And then she didn't even know. I don't think she just wasn't connected enough to it.
What a wild story. Well, hopefully those kids had horrible things happen to them.
Oh, they were men. That's the thing that bothers me even more. They were Knights of Columbus members, you know? So, like, they were probably veterans or something at that point. It was probably like 3 Vietnam vets who played out some like chubby 16-year-old. Pretty fucked up.
Yeah, but you know what? All those places like the Elks, Knights of Columbus, the Eagles, and stuff like that, they're all like little like mafias on their own.
Oh yeah,
you know?
It's like little frats. They're frats for like
That's good.
old drunks who didn't go to college. Like it's just everyone just needs community, you know.
Yeah.
We just all want to be loved at the end of the day.
That's it. It is.
You just want to be with a group of guys you could talk shit with.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why we invited you on the show, man.
Yeah. So anyway, so from that point on, I was heavy into promoting, and then sometimes towards the end of high school, I kind of tried to be like a high school kid for a while. I partied for a bit, and was like, oh, girls and like things like that, and then I started playing more seriously, and I met a bunch of guys from the Woodbridge area who were in a band called Yell Boy. I had joined that band. Then we formed a band called Full Circle Swing that only put out 1 7-inch, and then that turned into a band called The Low End Theory. And yes, we stole it from Tribe Called Quest. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, and that was like my first like real band that put out releases and toured and got signed. And that's the band that definitely really wet the whistle for me, that I was like, when I was like, I don't want to promote, I don't want to do that shit, I want to be like in a band. And somewhere along that time too, I had attempted to go to college. Like I did a year at Raritan Valley.
Golden Lions, baby!
Yeah.
Golden Lions!
I did a year at RVCC, commuted there from Highland Park, actually, which is funny. That's part of the story. I moved out of my mom's place at 17 and moved into my boys' house in Highland Park, which was deemed the house of habits by my friends, so you can get an idea of kind of fucked up little pad it was. But because I wasn't technically a Middlesex County resident yet, I had to commute to RVCC. You know, so I did some time at those, and I realized that wasn't for me too. I come from a very educated family, so there was like an expectation that I was going to go to school. I was definitely smart enough to, like, based on testing and shit like that. So it was frustrating for my family for sure. But then I just bailed, and I kind of made a decision that I was just going to go for it any way I could, and work was just going to be a way to make money until I figured something out.
When, like, you ventured into that, like, how did your parents react when you wanted to do drums as opposed to, like, not going to school or doing sports?
My mom was into it and honestly pushed it, you know, like some of my early bands and stuff, my mom was like loading drums into her Ford Tempo and taking me to the shows. When I started doing shows, you know, I needed to put my house number on the flyers to give directions. And the day of the show, my mom would sit by the phone and I'd give her all points directions to the Manville Elks, and she would sit on the phone and take calls. So she was like down for it and supportive, for sure. Almost probably pushed me into it. My father's whole thing was kind of like, you do what you do, but whatever you're going to do, you go like balls out, you know, and you see things through to the end and you be disciplined. That's kind of his vibe. So I think at first, you know, he was okay to let me explore. I mean, honestly, at the time I was making these decisions, I wasn't listening. My family was split and I wasn't really listening to what Pops had to say at that time anyway. But it did get to a point maybe in like my, 23, 24, where I was still kind of at this and nothing was really like clicking yet, on a bigger level that I think, he was starting to get like, maybe time for a change, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So there was definitely there was some hairy years there, especially before Gaslight. I mean, I didn't even meet Brian until I was 26. And we quickly, things went quickly, but there was a few years there, like right before Gaslight, where if you asked me, I would have said, this is my last band. Like, this is my last go at it. And and if this doesn't work, I'm going to I got to try something else.
Man, like
money was a problem. I didn't come from money. So this whole time we're talking about, I'm scratching by, and I was getting sick of that. I was getting sick of just straight up scratching by, I wanted a little more steadiness in my life.
But you embody, and I mean, I mentioned this a lot on the show, man. Everyone we talk to, whether it's these battle rappers, these photographers, these artists, DJs, you all have similar stories, and it's and I know I sound like a broken record. It is extremely motivating to see how much shit you have to put in, because there's so many people who we know, even Brian, think that the opportunity is going to knock on their fucking door, and it don't work like that.
Yeah.
Brian and I put out mixtapes 12 years ago, and there was times we were down in the dumps, we're done, and this here, what you're on is our last hurrah. You know what I mean? And we're 33, 34, and it just finally we're kicking it up a notch. So you saying you got to a point, I feel you on that. I know Brian feels you on that. So it's it is extremely relatable, and the fact that you kept going with it, it's extremely. I envy it, man. I really do.
There's this weird fine line, right, between what's being driven and what's being obsessive. Because you also have to have some sense. There are some people. There are some people I know or bands I know at a certain age who have unrealistic expectations, and that ruins music for them. After a certain point, you gotta create art for the sake of creating art if you actually want to do it well and you actually want to feel fulfilled, And there are a lot of fucking really talented people who go through their lives creating that don't get the thing.
Yeah.
You know? So it's such a fine line, and it's a strange balance, but some of us just aren't company men, you know? And I was talking with somebody the other day. It's like, you know, I'm in a strange transition right now. I have family. None of the things I'm doing are really fucking money makers, you know, like something like that. But I'm talking to someone the other day, and we're like, you know what? We didn't sign up for the gold watch, you know? Like, we're not company men. You know, you needed to give up a part of yourself to get that security and to get that regularity. You need to give up some of your personal freedom, give up some of your artisticness, and you need to kind of go into the thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, people got to take care of their lives. They got to take care of their families. Like, no judgment, you know? But, like, some people are going to die on the cross, as you said before about the Four Tops. So
I stand by that.
yeah. So, you know, that's the thing. If you feel like you got something to say and anybody's listening, fucking keep at it, you know?
Yeah.
Keep at it and just make money some way. You just have to make money, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I think also the opportunity for anyone that works hard and is persistent at what they're doing, I think the opportunity comes along at the time that you're ready for it. Like, do you think, like, let's say, all right, you know, you're really good at playing drums at 19 years old, and you meet up with this band, and everything works out, and you guys get signed to a record deal and this and that. Do you think at 19 you were ready to handle that responsibility? You know? Because
maybe not.
yeah, see, I feel, I mean, when we were, you know, we started doing rap when we were 15 years old, and, you know, obviously we were garbage, like we were terrible. But I mean, we started progressing because we kept at it, and we kept writing, and we kept doing it places. And at like 18, 19 years old, you know, we're recording songs and we're like, wow, you know, we're really good and this and that. But at the same time, I felt like at 19, 20 years old, I wouldn't have been able to handle that. If a label came along, it was like, here, we want to sign you to a record deal. I think the inexperience and the lack of maturity at that time would have caused me to take that opportunity and kind of just be like, whoa, I lost it.
Right. Sure.
You know,
there's definitely, I mean, I couldn't say for myself, because I was like a pretty responsible person early on, that I maybe I could have handled something like that. I have no clue. The thing I know for sure is that Gaslight definitely benefited in the long run from having so many years of experience and like so many years of not getting it. Because by the time people showed a certain type of interest in Gaslight, we knew like how special that was. And we knew that the window was open and you got to fucking fly through that window. Like we knew that, and we knew that from experience, you know?
Right.
What was that like breaking point for you guys? Like when did you see like the tide turn?
You know, for me, it happened really early because of how many years I struggled in music. Like, I basically had played enough music for enough people that I could literally gauge if you were bullshitting me or if you actually liked it, you know?
Yeah.
And early on, I'm sure you guys know that, making tapes for forever. Like you could start to see, like, if people are like, oh, yeah, that's really good.
Yep.
Their voice gets high, or they're like, oh,
they're talking over your song as you're trying to make them.
You know, and then some people are like, oh yeah, like that's good, you know. And you can see, and kind of early on with Gaslight, I feel like people I'd been playing music for ages were listening to it even early on and being like, oh, that's like a thing. This is like a real thing, you know? And it was probably, Brian was like, you know, the first traditional songwriter I'd ever been in a band with, you know? So for me, I think because of how like small my world was, it didn't take much for Gaslight for me to be like, yo, I want to take this like seriously. And I actually turned down my dream job early on. So I'm not only like a huge NBA fan, I'm like a fucking stat nerd. Like, and I'm obsessed with stats. Like, I've always been obsessed with cards, then newspapers, then fantasy. Like it's just something I love and makes me feel good. And a friend of mine, this guy Luke Bodenstein, who also plays drums, he was in a band called X Number 5, was working for the NBA and literally offered me a job logging stats. Like,
Wow.
yeah, which is like, you know, drums, logging stats for the NBA. Like it's a good job for me. And I even remember telling him, I'm like, you know what? Like, I want to see this thing through. I want to see where it goes. And this was really early with Gaslight. And he's even like, I think it's a mistake, bro. I fucked with him about that.
Is that how he talks?
Yeah, good call, dude. You know, he's got a very deep voice, actually. So he probably went like, Benny, I think that's a mistake. Yeah, something like that. Very serious. So I think I knew it was like pretty special early on. And even Brian and I had a sort of a crazy, unrealistic expectation of what success was. Because, you know, we're releasing the demos and the first things, and we're getting some good feedback. And we literally made a pact that if we sold 10,000 records at any point, we were both going to get throat tattoos. Because in our head, in our head at that time, if you sold 10,000 records, you were good, like forever.
Right. Okay.
You know, like you made it to a point that you could always write music and always tour and always do that. And then we quickly got to a point where we're like probably close to that and being like, oh, I'm still homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I better keep that neck open, you know?
Were you with a record company at that point or independent? Because you might have, you only get like what 10% of the sales and stuff?
I mean, well, until you pay it back, you get 0%.
Right.
So, yeah. But, you know, we self-released the first demo, and then, you know, this is where Gaslight almost wasn't even a band. So initially, it was that project, This Charming Man, which was a project Brian had. He took it on tour. It didn't go well. And he basically like let the whole band go and was like trying again. He had Alex Levine, was his brother-in-law, was like 17, just getting out of high school. He's like, you're my bass player. And he basically learned to play bass for Gaslight, you know? And then, you know, and then Brian was like looking around, and he had a relationship at the time with Eyeball Records and then this subsidiary called XOXO. It turned out XOXO was run by a guy named Jay Smalls and his wife, who I knew from back in the day in the hardcore scene. He was like an old New Brunswick, like hardcore kid that I knew forever. And he's the one who connected Brian and I to be like, Brian, you're looking for a drummer. I know this guy, he's looking to, you know, do music full time and be serious about it. So that's even how we met. But when we first got together, it was under the expectation to do a record for Eyeball Records as This Charming Man. And really quickly, we got like put in a really nice studio in upstate New York, one of those like retreat kind of studios. It looks like a ski lodge, like in the middle of nowhere kind of, you know, money place. Like someone was spending money on this shit with like, at the time, what Eyeball's version of like a big time producer was and stuff. And it just didn't go well. Like there was automatic like tension between the producer and me and the producer and Brian and the producer. There was, we weren't ready. Like the songs weren't quite ready. We weren't quite ready. It was a little rushed. And Eyeball basically was like, yeah, I'm out. And he was like, kind of told Brian, he's like, if you want to like fire these guys and try like by yourself, you can do it. Or like, I'm just going to like not have this deal for you anymore. And, you know, to Brian's credit, he had a feeling about what was ever happening already. And he was like, nah, I'm going to like stick with this. And, you know, and quickly after Eyeball pulled out, Jay from XOXO was like, yo, I don't care. I'll still do your record. So that's how like that band almost like if he never said that, I don't know what happens, you know. So we continued to work on the record, and we did do a small tour where it didn't work out with the guitar player, and that's when I brought in Alex Rosamilia because we were in a band together prior called The Killing Gift. And we were still in a stoner metal band called Spiro Agnew at the time, which is still kind of a band, actually. And, you know, I had quickly known, I had been doing a lot of touring at the time, not with my own bands, but like roadieing and stuff. I was roadieing for a band called Nora from New Jersey. I don't know if you guys remember that, an old hardcore band, some other bands. And I was on tour with this old guitar player for a couple days, and I was like, I don't think this kid's going to make it. You know, he was a really sweet guy and a pretty good guitar player, but he didn't have that road dog thing, you know, like he wasn't up for road dogging, you know, and not everyone is.
He's never walked into an Elks club and had a show stripped from him.
Probably not. It's true. Maybe that set me up for like going to like Hardee's in Georgia the first time. Yeah, it is scary. Yeah, it's true. And you know, during that tour, I was kind of like pressing the kid. I'm like, do you really want to do this? Like, don't you really want to go back to school? Kind of being manipulative, honestly. And at the same time, I was kind of telling Brian, like, yo, I know this guy. Because I thought Alex Rosamilia was just great, you know, like, and I wanted to keep playing music with him. So I thought it would be a perfect fit in this thing. And then eventually that happened. And once he came in and we started writing, that's when it was just like, all right, like this isn't anything. This isn't This Charming anymore. This is this band. Right. That's when we officially like really changed the name, put out the first demo, the 3 songs, and then just started rolling from there, you know? And I mean, shortly after that, it was like something that, you know, Brian and I in our own discussions were like, yeah, yo, like we're going to do this, you know, like let's go for it.
So with that writing process of stuff, is it usually like Brian writes a song and you guys do that? Or is it like you guys will come up with like a riff and then he'll write the song on top of it? Like how, like what's your guys' process for that?
I mean, it changed considerably through the years. In those days, a lot of it was just getting in a room, here's a beat, here's a riff, here's a line, here's a chorus, here's something, and then we would just all piece it together. You know, and then a lot of times back in those days, Brian would just do like an acoustic demo of a couple parts, you know, and sometimes a completed, you know, idea. And then just give it to us to write our own parts. And that's how it kind of went for years, actually. Like, it was sort of like, nobody's ever touched Brian's lyrics or melodies. Like, that's always been, like, Brian's department. You know what I mean? I don't want anything to do with that.
He's the Paul McCartney of the group?
Yeah, well, you know, I tried writing lyrics when I was, like, 17. Every time I do it, they sound like Rage Against the Machine. I can't make them.
Lights out, guerrilla radio.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing with like Rage Against the Machine, though. Like they do it theirs with their bassist and drummer. They come up with the riffs, and then on top of that, they build off of that. So I know like each band has their own type of like way that they like write that.
Yeah, definitely. And it was the first time, though. I mean, you know, when I met Brian and started playing with him, you know, one of the reasons I started playing with him was because he was a songwriter. You know, there was no like jealousy or something like that. I wanted Brian to be like the dopest songwriter there is because I know he's writing songs for my band. And if there's anything I'm good at, it's like, it's arrangement, you know? I mean, I think early on, I probably cut the 3rd or 4th chorus off one of Brian's songs like 25 times. I was always like don't bore us, get to the chorus, trim the fat. And I think that's one of the cool things at the beginning of Gaslight was where sort of Brian's real traditionally good singer-songwriter profile kind of met like excitable punk hardcore kids.
I'd hate to relate you to a guitarist and a drummer, but it sounds like you and him had a Glenn Fry and Don Henley relationship. Honestly.
I mean, if you watch the documentary, at the beginning, it was a little more like Stan and Tom, probably.
Okay, all right.
A little bit. But yeah, it's it's been an awesome and interesting, funky ride with me and Brian. That's a fact. And we're as close as we've ever been, you know.
That's
Awesome.
Eric, do you have
Hey,
any
Ben. Hey, Steph, I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, you directed Handwritten, the video.
Yeah.
What was that like? Was that like really stepping out of your comfort zone, or have you ever done anything like that before?
No, I've never done anything like that before. I'd done some writing, you know, I like to write, and came up with a lot of concepts for art and videos and stuff for bands previously. But no, that kind of came from like, you know, after I realized what a video treatment was when, you know, so like when you sign to like bigger labels and you don't have someone in mind for a video, they'll have people submit these like video treatments, which is basically, and I don't know why they call it that. It's just a fucking idea. And then, you know, and they'll write their idea out. And, you know, after a while, I'm like reading these things and stuff, and I'm like, you know, and I happen to be at a very like sober period of my life, which always makes me super productive. And I kind of just like went for it. I had this idea about following the life of a record. You know, that was like where the whole concept of it came, was like kind of because of what I spoke to you guys earlier about. I mean, I really grew up thinking records are super special, and always wondering in a way like that sort of romantic quality of when I'm at these record shows looking through a used bin, I'm like, where's this fucking thing been? You know, like whose house? Like who bought it first? Like someone in 1958 bought that. Who? You know, like what did they look like? Like this random inscription on the inside of my record. Like, you know, I even have a friend who does an Instagram called Things I Found in Records. And, you know, these guys run a record store and they find the craziest shit, letters and notes and leases and like people's like personal history inside of these albums.
It can also go bad though. You find like one that says belonged to John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah,
You're
something
like,
terrible. Yeah.
putting this on.
I know. I actually, part of my record collection that I still currently have is an ex-girlfriend gave me a collection of a dude she knew who went to jail.
There you go.
So I got like 100 albums in my collection that are like someone's jail records.
I think I got you beat. I did a song 10 years ago with someone who's in jail for murder.
Oh, okay.
So
I know who that is.
It's,
yeah, we won't talk about that, but
so
I don't want to know that.
so
Leave me out of this.
It's street cred now.
Eric, go on.
Yeah, so that's how the handwritten thing started, and then I just got ambitious with the film. You know, I was like, we, you know, I knew the budget we had. You know, my band was cool enough to basically be like, all right, it's yours. Like, we'll trust you with this. Like, here's the budget. You know, and I was really feeling that like the story was longer than 3.5 minutes. I was having a hard time conceptualizing like telling that whole story while peppering in like band live shots. And if you tell a label at the size we were at that time that you're not going to put the band in a video, you're not going to get the budget. Like that's like a thing. Like they, you know, videos are more successful when the band is in it. And you got to be like very arty or like a bigger band to get away with that shit. Well, so I knew like we had to put live cuts of us playing in the video, and I couldn't see how I could tell the whole story in that time. So that's when we went ahead, me and Kevin Slack, and like tried to put the whole film together.
The creativity thing's interesting because one of my favorite videos of all time is Freak on a Leash by Korn.
Oh, sure.
The bullet.
Cool as fuck, yeah, cool.
It's the coolest video of all time. Sorry, but Eric, I know you wanted to get in here. So
well, I was gonna say, you mentioned how you like to write songs and whatnot. We've had a lot of rappers on here. I'm not familiar with the creation of music at all, but we've had rappers where either they have an idea of a song and they find a beat that fits, or they hear a beat and then they write to it. How difficult is it writing lyrics when not only you don't have the beat, but you're a part of the group that makes a beat? And if you do have lyrics, how do you bring that to the group and say, like just explain?
Yeah, rock songs are so much more complex, right? I feel.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a drummer, I'm like, I have a great idea for a song, but it's like you want to hear the guitar, the bass,
sure.
else.
Well, to me in rock and roll, like, unless you're one of these really crazy progressive players who's making music that's like, oh, we play everything in like 11/16ths and like, you know, really mathy kind of shit. Mm-hmm. Like in a rock and roll context, when you're playing with a songwriter, to me, a drummer should be complementing, not owning. You know, there is a big difference, I think, in hip hop and rock where like the beat is the fucking centerpiece. It gets everything going, and then it dictates the lyrics. Mm-hmm. You know, you need to frame your cadence and all that around the beat itself. And I think it works in reverse in rock and roll. Right. Like, you know, someone like Bob Dylan, for instance, doesn't even consider himself a singer. He thinks he's a poet. He's like, I'm a poet. And everything in the song doesn't matter unless the lyrics and the message and how he wants to get it across is gotten across. So I actually think a lot about that when I write songs, and I write a lot of drum parts to match Brian's vocals or anyone I'm playing with vocals, because like, so we could write a whole song, but I am not finishing drum parts until I know the melody. And it's because I want my kick patterns, I want my fills, I want my accents to either complement a part or not take away from it. You know, if there's like a really strong part for a guitar or a really strong part for a vocal, stay the fuck out of it. It needs space. People need to hear it, you know, and then maybe another part of the song has space, and that's your time to fill it in. So that's the way I approach it. I think how the difference would be.
As a drummer with that's like, I always wondered that too, Eric. I'm glad you asked that, because I always said like rock songs, I never understood it, because like you said, we have a producer who makes beats and he'll label the beats a name, and a lot of times I'll write the song and make the song title the name of the beat, almost like the rhythm's already there. Like he names a song New Legend. All right, let me make a hook with New Legend, you know, and then just go with it. So with the 59 sound, that's a very emotional song. I'm sure you might have been asked this a lot of times, but I want to go a different route with it. You as a drummer, now to me the drum is just the most passionate instrument there is. Just like I don't know, anger. You know, you get your anger out when there's a song that emotional about. I mean, you could tell the backstory about it and what happened. Are you like extra into it because of the tragedy behind it? Like, are you like emotionally just like I'm crying as I'm doing it? You know what I mean?
Like 1,000%. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's one of the reasons Gaslight's been so awesome to be in for me. You know, so one of the things that like made me just fall in love with music in general is like, you know, when you were younger and you heard a piece of music and for whatever reason, like, just got that like feeling, like goosebumps, like, oh my God, like that just hit me in this like crazy way where it's like, it literally is, it's inside your body. You're feeling it. It's like, it's literally emoting from your body. And writing songs, you can get the same feeling, you know, like sometimes like there's been some times where we would like finish a song and I'd be like, oh yeah, like, it's a good fucking song. Like, yeah, like I'm stoked. I would listen to this song. And if you watch Gaslight live videos, especially from back in the day, like I'm almost always like screaming along half the time because that whole feeling of it is driving my whole experience, especially live.
So I actually saw you guys live. You guys opened up at PNC for the first time and had Jimmy Eat World opening up for you.
Yeah.
Like, that's what like it was like. I was like watching you guys. I was like, how fucking cool is that to be like a local Jersey band opening up at the biggest venue in New fucking Jersey, having Jimmy Eat World, a band that we all listened to growing up, opening up for you. Like that
was wild, man. Yeah, and it was especially surreal. I don't even know if I've ever talked about it in public, but I'm fine to now.
Nice. Exclusive.
Yeah, this might be exclusive. So my mom actually passed away 2 days before that show.
Oh, wow. Shit.
Yeah, it was something, you know, we were on that tour. You know, it didn't come totally out of left field, but, you know, the speed of it came out of left field. And one of the only Gaslight shows I've ever missed in my life was 2 days before in Philly, where Adam Willard from Against Me like popped in and played a few songs, and they kind of pieced it together so we didn't have to cancel the show. That was literally the day she died. The day after was the services, you know, because we're Jewish. And then the day after that was that PNC show.
Holy shit.
And, you know, it was complicated, you know, but because of what we already talked about, how big of a role my mom played in music, Gaslight, all of it, and how connected she was, and the fact that we had gone to shows together at PNC. And as you said, like, now I'm headlining PNC. I'm from fucking New Jersey. I'm headlining PNC. It's like the coolest thing. So there's never a doubt in my mind that I had to play the show. You know, and that, like, so that show to me is like a giant, just emotional blur of energy in so many different ways.
So is that like the moment?
You might make me cry on this show. Jesus, man.
So life's the ride, baby.
Would that be like the tattoo on your neck moment, like where you're like, we hit it big, or was it like another point that like you're like, we hit it big?
Yeah, I mean,
Benny's never getting a tattoo on his neck.
No, that's out. Yeah, that's out. Yeah, no, I like it. I'm so glad it's clean.
Dan, you should get a tattoo on your neck just as tribute.
Yeah. Benny.
Discount Dan.
Tell him you're hip hop. Tell him it's something more gangster, like Benny Blanco from the Bronx.
No.
Yeah.
Benny, is it awkward though? Like, obviously, like we were saying, like, we all knew who Jimmy Eat World is. Is that awkward to be like, okay, we're like kind of newer than you guys, and now you guys are opening up for us?
Well, I mean, listen, like, to be totally real, the reason that happened is because we can't sell out PNC by ourselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're big in New Jersey, but we're not good for fucking 10,000 tickets, you know?
You know what? Fuck everyone else.
Yeah, so
Fuck everyone else.
I mean, it gets to a point, man, where it's like, it's just all, it's fucking money.
Yeah.
You pay anyone enough, they'll come open for you, you know? So we knew, like, we needed that Philly and that Jersey show. We knew we were being super ambitious with the venue and needed to put, like, a package together, you know? And thought that would be a perfect fit. But there's, like, no region in America that we would headline for Jimmy Eat World besides for Jersey and Philly, you know? Like,
Makes
so
sense,
it just wound up being that thing, you know? But it does feel weird, especially because how big of a Jimmy Eat World fan, like, I am. I mean, I saw them at, like, Coney Island High in New York in, like, 96, you know, in front of very few people. Big fan for a long time. So I never wanted to feel, like, disrespectful, just as long as the band knows it's out of a place of admiration, you know?
Sure.
Which it was. It very much was.
I want to ask with, like, bands that go on hiatus and stuff. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Eagles, big fan of the Beatles, and every one of these bands break up or go on hiatus at some point.
Hell freezes over.
Yeah. So is it, in your experience, is it just time? People have creative differences. It's just exhausting. Like, you went on tours, you know, is it just like people just I just want to relax for a year, you know, or is it just a culmination of everything?
I mean, you're a sports guy, so that's a good framework to put it in.
Thank you.
You know what I think about it as is, like, even if you're the greatest team, how hard is it to win a championship? And how hard is it to do it, like, year after year?
Yeah.
Like, something's bound to happen. You know, even Michael Jordan cracked in the middle of his and had to fucking take, like, some time off because it was just too much. And so I think it takes incredible wherewithal and personal self-discipline and personal awareness, confidence, like any number of things that are probably unique for musicians to have. Because, you know, I mean, it's a strange part about all this is that, you know, it's not normally like the most confident, well-adjusted people who become professional musicians. Usually it's quite the opposite, of what brought them there. And then you're expected to kind of, if you get big, you're running a business, you're navigating a very complex structure of community, you know what I mean? Where like, there's not many contexts. You take 5, 6, 7 grown people with different opinions and different needs or desires and sandwich them literally into one van.
Yeah.
And now you're making every decision together, you know, literally like where are we stopping to eat is like a communal decision, you know what I mean? And not everybody's a good communicator. Not everybody's respects other people's opinions. So there's any number of things that can happen that like shake up that variable. So like say the Warriors, if they were all healthy last season, sure, they could have won.
Yeah.
But they were all hurt, and it happens. Sometimes like getting to the point is almost easier than sustaining it because it gets so complicated with more and more success. It gets more convoluted, and it gets a little harder to wrap your head around. And that's where I started the sentiment with like it takes incredible like self-awareness and discipline, I think, for bands to get into a record cycle thing. You know, everybody sees it happen, right? The band puts out a record every 2-3 years. They tour for 9 to 15 months afterwards, take X amount of time off, write another record and go again. And once all these other things start getting into play there, to keep your focus on the songs, the record, the art, your relationships with each other and stuff like that just gets tougher and tougher.
Right.
Like Blink-182.
Sure. Yeah.
So what I heard is, Benny, you're saying if there's a vegan in the van, there's going to be arguments all the time.
Unless they're cool. I was the only vegetarian in Gaslight for the whole time.
Yeah.
All right? And I ate a lot of like fucking lettuce sandwiches from Subway. I'd make a salad out of the Arby's Fixins bar.
Oh,
Bean burritos.
You know, like you know, I've spent many days eating nothing but like bagged nuts. You know, one of those mini Cracker Barrels. You know,
Jesus Christ, Dan, go on.
Yeah, so you were talking about like how like you were like dirt broke, not making any money. So when you finally did like start to make money, hit it big, what was like your first like I'm rich purchase? Like, do you get like a car, drum set? Like, what was your like splurge?
my first splurge was paying rent again. Yeah, so like literally, I met my wife, my now wife. I met when I was literally homeless, like not living on the street. I was crashing at people's houses and stuff, but you know, I was touring 9 or 10 months out of the year at that time. You know, if not touring, just fully doing something with Gaslight. And I stopped paying rent. I couldn't afford it. We weren't making any money yet, so I couldn't pay for a place that I wasn't living at. So I put all my shit in storage. It was actually that I just passed it the other day, and I felt very nostalgic. It was the storage space behind the bowling alley on Route 1 in North Brunswick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
So that spot, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first met my wife, she what's that?
No, that was Carolier Lanes, right?
Yeah, it's something else now, but it was Carolier, yeah. So I met her, and I was, when I was home, I was just crashing around. And then we got an apartment together in Jersey City, real cheap place. And then eventually we got a bigger place. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm going up in rent. That means I'm killing the storage space, finally. Like, we're not moving into this place unless I can clear the storage space out. So that was like a big step for me, was like, I'm like, now I just live somewhere. All my shit is in one place. This is my apartment, and I like live here. Like, that's dope. And then the funny one after that was like, all of us showed up to Alex Levine's wedding with a new car.
Nice.
Yeah, that was I think the first time I told you about was like probably like side one money, and that car thing was like the universal money. It's like when we first signed, and like
That's awesome.
And, you know, none of the guys in the band, like, came from money.
Right.
So people had a little bit of that, like, yo, a little bit, like, at first, you know, had to reel it back. I'd like to say I got the most sensible car out of all four.
Has there been any bands you guys have been compared to? Because I know that happens with a lot of bands. I'm sure you've been asked this. I whenever we have a guest on, I go back down like a rabbit hole of like days of listening to your stuff. So I like went back and, you know, just like, all right, let's re-listen to everything. I get a little Bowling for Soup. I mean, I don't know if that's an insult, but I don't know, a little bit. But you get any? Okay, good. You're not offended.
Not
by
what I
that?
expected.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I get a little of them. Which might be crazy to people. That's just the first name that came.
I gotta say that's a first.
Right. All right. Well, hey,
You're a
it's the
groundbreaker.
TruExact show, baby. First for everything. So, do you get any bands you get compared to? And if you do, are you just like sick of the? Obviously, Jersey, Springsteen. Enough. All right, we get
This
it.
is why I love you already. You're so hip hop, you don't even know about it.
Yeah.
It was the Bruce thing. Like we couldn't get away from the Bruce thing.
No, I figured it was Bruce.
Like that was,
but honestly,
that was an issue.
I'm impartial to Bruce. Whatever. I don't care too much. But yeah, I don't want to ruin any relationships. Yeah, but
oh no, I'm a Led Zeppelin guy, baby.
Yes.
You know?
So yeah, you could not escape the Bruce thing. Then you just couldn't.
Yeah, I mean it was just part of the narrative. It's like, but like, I mean, literally one of the biggest rock stars in the world decides he likes you and wants to come play on stage with you.
Of course.
Sure. Like, you want to come do it again? You want to invite our singer to sing? Like, so for the most part, literally 95% of the time that was happening, we were stoked about it, you know? But it did get to a point at some point where you are sick of hearing it. You're like, you know, we do write music. Like maybe listen to it. Like pay a little more attention, dig in a little bit, because like not for nothing, like Bruce Springsteen, I've never heard him play a hardcore breakdown on his records. I play one. I'm like, I never heard him have a punk beat on his records. I play a bunch of those, you know? So there did get to a point where I was like, I thought it was lazy after a while, you know?
That's a good fucking word. Very good word.
But the thing I realized too is that people who are doing interviews, people who are reviewing, they're selling stuff. They're selling magazines, they're selling newspapers, they're selling clicks. And if you have Bruce Springsteen in the headline, it gets more of all of them. So
I don't feel like it would have been as much on the nose if you guys weren't from Jersey.
Yeah, and that, right. If we were from Gainesville, it could have been Petty.
Exactly.
If we were Indiana, it would have been Mellencamp.
Bro, half the people who like Jersey's very loyal. We know this.
Yes.
Half the people, like, I will go to the depths of hell to defend Joe Budden's catalog, and I know Brian will too. I will fight someone at a fucking
die on this hill again. I'll die twice. Twice tonight I'll die.
Let me ask you a question then.
Go on, sir.
Give me like.
I've never been asked.
I'll take artists too. I'll take a group too. Okay. Give me your Jersey hip hop top 5.
Can I throw Meryl Streep in there as an
No, we're doing that. I'm putting Danny DeVito in. No, you can't do that.
I think. See, I'm gonna get backlash if anyone even watches this. I think Joe Budden's the best rapper to ever come from Jersey.
Okay.
I'll throw him over Redman. I'll throw him over. That's just me.
Okay.
But how many are there?
You have to pick 5. You said 1.
You got to go with Redman, obviously. I think Ransom's amazing. Ransom's amazing. I mean, wow, that's a tough question.
Yeah, 2 more, buddy.
It's like our top 5 in middle school.
I'll throw the Queen Latifah in there, nostalgia-wise. I will. And
you're just running out.
Yeah,
you're just running out.
I wasn't expecting this, man.
You have 1 more.
Right, help me out.
What we got? What about Big L?
That's the ones.
Big L was from Brooklyn.
Not even
Big L was
I can't pick someone I'm not familiar with.
Wait, there was a
Wyclef.
Shit.
Lauryn Hill.
Yeah, actually,
the
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was one of my favorite, one of the best, most underrated records. So yeah.
Can I nominate one of my favorite hip hop records from Jersey?
Go on, sir.
You ever listen to The Arsonist?
The Arsonist, no.
Nope.
Get a record. Wrong side of the tracks. They were like the epitome of graffiti hip hop that came out of New Jersey. I literally watched 2 kids fight in my backyard over one of them saying this record was bad, one of them saying it was good, and him going, "Yo, you don't write fucking graph." So
I also forgot Naughty by Nature and Tretch. I apologize for that.
And in the Outlaws with Tupac, they're on the Hit 'Em Up. One of his guys is from Jersey. He said, "I'm from NEW Jersey."
Dude, that was such a. I wasn't expecting that, so I probably missed out on like 9 people I'm forgetting.
Dude, Tupac lived in Newark for a good amount of time.
Yes, he did.
Sure did.
So Benny,
please listen to the artifacts and get back to me on that.
I will.
That's really important to me. That between a rock and a hard place. That's the record. I have to
listen to that. You can't say it's really important to me, and then I just say no, I'm not listening. And now you put pressure on me.
All right, well, put on Wrong Side of the Tracks, and this is over, and you will be impressed. It's really good. Yeah.
All right, Dan, go on.
So Benny, I was listening to your podcast, going off track about how you're talking about how Lars Ulrich announced you guys on the stage and stuff. What is one of the cooler interactions that you've had with a celebrity, or who do you wish that you kind of were able to do a collab with?
Oh, I mean, I've had a lot of those moments where I've met someone where I'm just again, I was such a big rock and roll fan and stuff. Even just being in the same room as a guy from Metallica is just a fucking trip to me, no matter how big Gaslight ever got and whatever world I was in, I never felt I always feel like a fan,
That's awesome.
I'll always feel like a fan with people like that. I met Zach De La Roca in Australia, and I was just like, hey man, and he's just really sweet. I barely ever know what to say when I meet him. As far as a collab goes, I mean, there's a lot of people I'd love to play with. Shit. But at this point, I mean, I would love to do, I've been playing punk rock and rock so much. And a lot of times when I get behind kits these days, I'm playing hip hop, or I'm playing funk, or I'm playing
you'd like to do a song with a couple rappers.
I think I would, actually. I think I would. It would be fun. Oh, wait, where is it? Oh, you're going to love this. Hang on.
It'd be horrible if it was just a photo.
No, I just found this yesterday. I don't know how well you're going to see it. This is a picture of me.
I saw you post that.
With Redman and Keith Murray.
That's crazy.
From 1998.
After I just bashed Redman, now I feel like shit.
Yeah, I'm the kid poking his head up back there. That's at the MTV Beach House when it was in Seaside in '98.
That was awesome.
So maybe I could send this picture to Red, and I could play drums for him.
Yeah, I didn't mean to.
Was he awesome in person?
He was cool as fuck. He's still on my top 5 just guys I just want to sit down, fucking roast one with. Redman is way up there. Yeah.
I would think we'd make the list after this interview.
I can recite How High to you, beginning to end.
Yeah.
Great.
So you mentioned you meeting these people, and no matter how big you get, you're still in awe when you see them. How strange is it when you see somebody that might not recognize you at first, and then they realize who you are, and they're in awe?
Well, Eric, you mentioned
you're like a bro like us.
You mentioned the guy in Chicago. Tell him. Tell him about your friend in Chicago who had his shirt on.
Oh, yeah. So I was just texting people, hey, do you have any questions for this guy? Do you know this band? And my friend Robin in California said, oh my God, my boyfriend who lived in Chicago was a huge fan of them. And she showed me a picture of your one of your band's shirts.
Yeah.
And was all excited about it. That's it's just crazy to I don't know, because I'm not famous, believe it or not. But I couldn't imagine just me at a McDonald's drive-thru and someone's like, can I have a picture? Is it just surreal? Because you seem so down to earth like us. I'd feel so strange about it.
It's super fucking weird. and it always I guess at first it made me uncomfortable, even to the point I remember when Gaslight started, doing something, and we were first getting asked to do autographs, and I wasn't gonna do them. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that shit. Fuck that. Autographs, you crazy?
Sure.
And then I called I was talking to my friend Carl Severson, who runs Ferret Records, now Good Fight Records in Jersey. And I hit him up about it. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. He's like, bro, bad idea. He's like, there is no world in which you won't come off like a dick. He's like, you know, you could sit there for 15 minutes and tell people every human reason you don't want to do this. And at the end of 15 minutes, they're going to go, so can I get it? You know? Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and then in the end, it's like, who gives a shit about giving it, you know? Because it's like, what the fuck does it matter? Even to the point that, like, we got to the point that, like, autograph hunters would come to our shows, especially in Europe, where they would come. It would obviously be someone who's not into your band. You know, it's like a 55-year-old Armenian guy in a leather jacket who just happens to have, like, this many glossy photos of your band in a folder. Like, it's like, come on, bro, you know? And at first, I kind of got, like, upset about stuff like that. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, like, autograph hunter. And then after some consideration, I'm like, I really consider, I'm like, okay, like, what's someone's life like who's doing this full time? It probably sucks. You know what I mean? If you're, like, sitting outside of shows, printing glossies, trying to sell them, like, wherever the fuck you can sell them, especially mine, I'm like, this is some low rent, not fun kind of shit you're doing.
Just trying to eat, man.
Exactly, man. So I started making a deal with them. They would come out. I'd be like, yo, I'll do 3. I'll get the whole band to do 3. And then you got to split, you know? Yeah. Like, so I would just, like, and then they're still pushy. They're like, no, but I have these and these. I'm like, no, I'll give you 3. I don't have to give you any. I'll give you 3. Yeah. And then, you know, but that being said, you know, after a while, I think I learned to be happy with the praise, because I know what the alternative is, you know? If no one's giving you compliments, if no one's recognizing you, it means you're probably not playing music full time and you're not doing the thing you love.
Benny, so the alternative is doing a podcast interviewing people in a basement like me.
Well, and if it's a cautionary tale, you can also be in a really successful band for a long time and still do podcasts to try to get by. So, like, this is no joke, man. You got to jump through your windows.
It's a cutthroat business, man.
There it is. I remember that. Oh, that was the fan club shirt too, I think.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Yeah, that's
Benny,
awesome.
you want to sign it? We can have it signed.
Yeah. Do not ask Benny for autographs after show. Damn it!
No, it'd be great if you didn't want to sign it just because you didn't know how to write in cursive, and you just didn't want to tell people.
But I mean, it does on a human level. It's like if a bunch of people come up to me and they're chill and they want to talk, like fucking talk all night, like it's fun. But it does get awkward. You know, like sometimes it's just weird, you know, where like you walk outside after a show and there's like 10 people and I'm like, hi, like, does anyone want anything or should I just go eat my food and go to sleep like I want to? Like, well, what are we doing here? Sometimes it's awkward. But in reality, like, I try to use sports in those instances. So like, if I'm in Kansas City and some guy's just like too fucking drunk, getting too close, getting too weird, starting to ask like weird questions, like, yo, what's up with Alex Gordon this year? He's looking slow, you know? Like, I'll just always bring it to sports. And then all of a sudden the dude's talking about, you know, like Marquette basketball. And I'm like, good, all right, we're off that shit.
Yeah, I'd probably bring up like the 80s. I'd be like, so how's George Brett doing?
Yeah. You just got to ask questions. You just got to ask questions. So be like, so what do you do? And then you just got to reverse it. But
you never pawn it off on one of your other band members? I do that to my friends.
No, I'm the pawnee.
Oh, man, you're the one that say, Benny will help you out with that, and they walk away. God bless you.
Yeah, that's my job. That's one of my jobs at Gaslight for sure.
God bless you. Benny, before this was honestly, this was awesome. If you guys have any
inspired by all the Yankee shit behind you, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, if we could get into that.
Just getting into the Yankees, like, what do you think they need going forward? Obviously, they keep getting into these long playoff runs and just falling short. What do you think they need going forward?
Exactly, and this is why this show is great. We're not only talking music, we're getting Benny's takes on sports.
I'm gonna walk away as a Boston fan and
Let's
pee
do
at
it.
this point.
Oh, he's mad because Mookie Betts is on the TV right now.
Fucking loser.
So do you enjoy your financial flexibility while you're watching Mookie Betts in the World Series? Good for you. Oh, that's nice. How's Alex Verdugo doing right now?
I hope he comes back crying.
I honestly, I'm a pretty righteous sports fan where, like, I love my teams. You know, I'm like Nets, Giants, Yankees, like hardcore, like all those teams. But I'm not like a hater for other
Realistic.
teams.
Yeah.
Like, I like a great player. I like a great team. I like great sports. And I don't really like hate, except for two teams. The Boston Red Sox and the Philadelphia Eagles. Those two teams are just blanket, fuck you. I'll do anything to make you feel bad forever. So I have been having some satisfaction watching Mookie Betts just rip this playoffs up. Like, watching that guy play right field for another team that's about to win the World Series kind of makes me giggle.
Benny, this is a true story. I went to an Eagle game with a Brandon Carr. I'm a Cowboy fan, right?
Okay.
So my brother's a diehard Eagle fan. Weird.
Okay.
So I went. This is typical Philly fans, and I'm only using this language because this is what was said to me.
Okay.
I'm wearing a Brandon Carr jersey, and
not a great rivalry there. Yeah.
Fine. I you know what? I keep my mouth shut. I know how it goes. Gilbert Brown's still a piece of shit, and I'll stand by that for not signing my fucking autograph. Anyway, so I go. Yeah, I'll tell you that story off the air. Fucking asshole. It's been 5 years. I still hate him.
Mine is Ruben Sierra. He's on my shit list for life.
Oh my god!
Ruben
Hold on,
bro.
I can't believe that my friend Sean has a vendetta against Ruben Sierra for the past 25 years.
He denied me in like 1989.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
What are the odds?
He denied Sean at a Somerset Patriot game. A Somerset Patriot.
God.
I can't wait to
Pats at the real Pats game.
I can't wait to see this.
So at Patriots games, he's a dick.
So
No, mine was at Yankee Stadium.
I'm wearing a Brandon Carr jersey, and the one kid goes, "David Carr sucks."
Oh.
I go, "It's Brandon Carr." He goes, "Keep telling yourself," and once again, only using this lane. He goes, "Keep telling yourself that, faggot." I go, "But it is Brandon Carr. How do I respond to that?"
You just keep walking. You just keep.
Raymond,
Don't engage.
I go to my brother, Raymond. How do you deal with these fucking fans? Like,
I know.
what do you do?
It's the worst. My brother got spit on when he was like 15 at the old Veteran Stadium. We went, you know, when I was growing up, we had family friends with Giant season tickets, and we would buy 2 games a year every year in the same seats. And one year we decided to go to Veteran Stadium to see the away game, and Giants won. Most of the interior shit talking was fairly friendly. If my brother was 15, that meant I was like 11. And we're walking out, and there's just this group of Eagles fans that are yapping and yapping and yapping. My brother's my brother. Like, he's not going to take – he turns around, starts fucking giving it right back and getting heavy. My dad's got him by the cuff. And these guys start spitting on a 15-year-old kid. My dad's so – he's just dragging my brother. I'm just like – what's happening? Scared as shit. Yeah. So
Classy fans, those Eagles.
Apparently,
to answer your question, long down the road here of what the Yankees need, I think the Yankees they need a couple. They obviously need another starter they can count on, especially in the playoffs. And then I think the Yankees' biggest problem right now is offensive versatility. I really think they need a couple other bats from the other side, and I think they need a couple other players who you can't shift against. You know, you need another LeMahieu. You need another guy you can put towards the back end of the lineup that can spray the ball all around the field. They've become a little predictable, and I think that's maybe their biggest issue right now.
Are you losing confidence in Chapman?
In a big spot, maybe, yeah, sure. Like, I think Chapman's one of those weird situations, you know, like, he's like an A-Rod. I don't want to root for him, but I have to, you know? Like
That at bat where he gave the home run against the Rays, it's like once he got to like 8, 9, 10, I knew
You knew
something.
it.
You knew it was coming.
You know,
You
that's
knew
what
it.
he gets. That's what he gets for trying to kill somebody. He fucking deserved
Exactly. I know. He's a hard guy to root for. He
it.
sure
Yeah, hard.
is.
Especially
Yeah.
since he shot a gun at his pregnant wife. Let's not forget about that.
Not cool. Not something cool.
No.
These guys are not your role models. That's
Benny,
Not a nice
I'm
thing
gonna
to
wait
do.
till Brian gets back, but at the end of the shows, first of all, plug yourself. How we can find you.
Oh, cool. Well, I mean, I guess I'll just plug the stuff I'm doing. I'm not gonna.
Go
I
ahead.
feel weird talking about social medias, but still doing Mercy Union. Just went the other day, record a couple songs with Rocky. We're gonna be doing some new stuff, and then weekly releasing Going Off Track podcast. Got a different awesome musical guest every week, and then weekly now doing the Tune Up podcast, which is like a half sports pop culture podcast. So.
Well, if
Pretty-
you ever
pretty
need
busy
any
with that
guests,
stuff.
any 5 of us will come on. I'm
Hell
trying.
yeah.
You can't knock the hate.
I need a Penguins expert.
Hey,
Nobody needs that. Nobody needs
yes,
that.
we do. Hey, Benny, the creme de la creme, as we like to call it, the
We've
final
never called
chapter.
it that.
I just called it that
This is
now.
literally the first time you've ever said that in 96 episodes.
Hey, Benny, when I'm 4 White Claws deep, anything
That's
can
it.
happen.
Oh, no.
He's gonna lose his
Goblet
shit.
has gone down.
Claws no laws, baby.
All right,
It's not like White Claws.
So, oh man. So we like to do a gun to your head segment, and it's would you rather type questions. Okay. We
Fine.
ask 2 each.
Okay.
And you have to pick a winner at the end. We do tally the scores, and it's a stupid mail thing where we keep track and like to think that we won. Okay? So there you go. Exactly. Yep. Like Amy in Congo with the fucking gorilla. You know what that is. So, all right, Brian, I'm going to ask you to go first since you were beaten by a guest on the last episode.
Okay, no problem.
Go on.
I'll go first. All right. So my first one is, would you rather get thrown out of old queens or drink beers with an old queen?
That's super easy. Drink beers with an old queen.
Super
1000%. Yeah.
That's a stupid
Too
question.
easy.
Got me into. I went to Old Queens about twice. I almost threw myself out of that fucking.
My brother-in-law's a bouncer.
I was trying to keep Jersey based.
Rough job, being a bouncer at Old Queens.
I almost threw myself out.
Would you rather only be able to eat at the grease trucks every day or drive in a truck filled with grease?
Like as my everyday car.
Yeah.
We had some
I get. You know what? I would go grease trucks because you don't have to get a fat sandwich there. You know, you can just
That's
get a
right.
nice, you get an egg and cheese. You know
A
what I
salad.
mean? Yeah, it'd be like, hey, let me get just some chicken without the bread. You know, you can still make meals with those guys. You know,
So meal prepping through them.
yeah.
Are the grease trucks, are they still there?
The parking
They
lot's
moved.
not there.
They moved,
So
yeah.
they're
They moved,
scattered
yeah.
like all around New
They
Brunswick
took
now.
away the parking lot.
They did. I love that place.
All right,
Yeah.
Benny, I'll go next. You ready?
All right.
At Daryl or Hudson?
Did you play Nintendo growing up? Do you remember Mike Tyson's Punch-Out?
Hell yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Would you rather fight Piston Honda or drive in a Honda that was piston?
I guess I would drive in a Honda that was piston. That guy would wreck me, man. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I've lived in a lot of punk houses. I can tolerate a pretty heavy scent of piss.
By the way, 25 years later, fuck Piston Honda. He was an asshole.
He was tough.
You had to face him twice. It
Tough
wasn't
one.
fair.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Four
Yeah,
White
alright.
Claws deep, let him go.
All right, so your life depends on it. Would you rather fight Han Solo or go a versus with a drum solo versus Travis Barker?
I'll take my chances with Barker.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like you just got to play the odds here, you know. Like I
You're not a
play
Jedi.
drums. I
Yeah, you're
play
not a Jedi.
drums.
Yeah.
You know, I can do some cool stuff on the drums. Maybe I have a good day, and Travis has a bad one.
Right.
Han, I have no background in fighting like that, so it's like I'm an odds man. I'll take my odds with Barker on that.
All right, we'll go with Eric because I want him to rush, and I know he's writing.
Okay. Would you rather never play with Gaslight Anthem again, or your car always has the gas light on?
I'll take the car. I'll take the car. Yeah.
Would you? Because I just had this for dinner, and you're from Jersey. Would you rather never eat calamari again, or do Molly and Cali?
I'll do Molly and Cali.
I'll join you.
Fun. Yeah, it's kind of like the perfect place to do something.
Yeah, with calamari, it'll be a great time.
Yeah, give me Southern California weather, a beach, and some drinks. Yeah, I'm okay.
Benny, before the show, before you got on, Dan said, "I think I'm gonna win this one." You did.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty confident. I've only won once out of 96 episodes or whatever it is.
Mikey will finish it off.
Dan, you seem like the sensible guy around here. That's my instinct. Am I right?
That's
you're pretty spot on.
Yeah.
You're pretty spot on.
That's some Molly kicking in, but okay.
All right. So, would you rather never be able to keep a beat or only eat beats?
Oh, eat beats.
That's your go-to?
That was
No.
It is. You know what? That's a tricky question because beats
Because
are the
you're
next
being red
level.
stuff the entire time.
Yeah, because you're going to be shitting red the rest of your life, which is always terrifying. There's been a couple times I've forgotten I eat beets, and I've like looked down and been like, "Oh no!" Shitting blood is a game changer.
No, that's an anal fissure. I've had a couple of them. We'll get into that in another episode.
Wait,
go on, Dan.
Okay. Only eat your drumsticks, the wooden ones, or only play with chicken drumsticks?
Oh, well, I would die if I only ate wood. So I guess I'll just search for like the biggest chickens in the world who might have a sizable femur or something. Oh wait, do they have femurs? They don't have thighs. I don't know. I don't even eat.
It better be dry wings because you'll be a mess by the time.
They would be good for my speed. You know, they're a little lighter.
Yeah.
I have to say, Dan, those weren't horrible, but you definitely overhyped them.
That's good for me. Like I felt like I put a lot of work into that one.
Mikey, you got one. Go on.
Would you rather kill a man with your bare hands or kill a bear with your man hands?
Oh, I'd rather kill a
Mikey,
man with my bare hands.
All right, fair enough.
Wow, really?
I would love if you turned Samara and this and choked Mikey. All right, Benny, you got to pick a winner. What was your favorite question?
Or best group of questions, Gaslight. You know.
Oh, what was the
Stop
best?
Slam.
Oh man, I kind of forget what all of you asked already.
Ah.
It was a tough game.
I was the Piston.
Yeah, give me each of your best ones again, real quick.
I was the Piston Honda one.
I was the Gaslight or Gaslight.
Right.
I'm the beats or beats.
And bare hands.
I was the grease trucks one.
I was also calamari.
I like the trucks one. I'm going trucks.
Man,
It's fun.
Brad's been really good at this.
Because I had to think about that. It gave me some options. Some of these were just like, yeah, I'm going to do that because I would die.
right now, you are driving in a greasy truck, right? And you are killing people with your bare hands while playing with chicken thighs on your drumstick, and your grease truck has the gaslight on all the time.
Yep.
And you're doing Molly and Cali.
The car or truck you're driving in is a Honda that was piston. So that's your Mad Libs right there.
Sounds like my dream on Tuesday night. Yeah.
Yes.
Normal. Yeah.
Betty, I know we were talking back and forth, and you even asked like, what kind of style do you guys do? I'm really hoping you had a good time because this was phenomenal.
Fun.
This was phenomenal, man.
Super fun.
So honestly, thank you.
Nice way to have a Friday. Drink a scotch.
Yeah.
Right.
Get some laughs. I appreciate it. That was
Drink
fun.
White Claws. I mean,
rough.
There you go.
That was rough.
Betty, this was awesome. I really hope you come on again if you want to.
Yeah, sure. This is fun.
Awesome.